Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in and discussing really a great viewer comment, and that is sort of a red flag of a narcissist, really by the way that you feel. You can really begin to indicate or validate whether someone who you are in relations with is someone who is narcissistic, meaning ultimately who's going to be adversarial for you, not in your best interest, really one who's going to more take rather than give and be unfair rather than fair, and oftentimes sort of create a creeping in of judgment and disparity and sort of divisiveness within the relationship. And so a great red flag of the narcissist is really to be indicated by how you feel. Think of it this way, you have emotions. This is wired to the reptilian and the oldest part of your brain. So there's parts of your system, your instinct and your intuition, which is going on and really guiding you throughout your day, throughout your minutes, and really throughout your life. This is known as your instinct, your gut feeling, your premonition. You got a sneaky feeling, you've got a hunch, or you just plain feel a tension, a fear, or a love, a passion, something that comes over you. This is known as a gut instinct. So the reptilian brain, which is part of the subconscious and the unconscious, where all your, automatic systems are going. It regulates your heartbeat, your breathing, your circulation, all, the automatic nervous system that is the parasympathetic, that is all webbed into your central nervous system. You've got the vagus nerve, which runs, down and then into the gut, which is where that they believe many studies have shown that there are large number of neuron cells, sort of brain cells in the gut. So this is your instinct. This is how you feel. A lot of people lose connection, lose the voice, lose the ability to hear and heed this voice. So there becomes a disconnect, or it becomes very faint. It doesn't really bubble to the surface anymore. It doesn't really have a direction. Or when it speaks up, you don't really understand its direction. So a lot of people feel that it's unfamiliar, and so they just shoo it, poo it away. That, maybe it's just me being oversensitive. Maybe it's just new. Maybe I'm normal. I'm just excited, So people oftentimes, interpret their feelings, oftentimes, in a disoriented way or a misinterpreted way. And this is a really great indicator to circle back and realize that you need to get back to that and embrace that and then harness that in order to identify, deal with, and manage and process relationships and, how you feel. So, the narcissist who's plagued really by a pathological sense of self-importance, just sort of a superficial charm and exploitativeness of others, meaning that they'll just sort of take from others. They won't give credit where credit is due. They will be very, very disrespectful. You'll feel that they don't listen to you, that they don't get you, that they're not acknowledging you. They're not, interacting with you for who you are. They're interacting with you with a projection that they want to put on you, kind of like a golden cage. They just want to sort of put an identity on you, oftentimes which has nothing to do with you. They'll make you out to be the bad guy, a bad person, when you are not. They'll, riddle you with false accusations, sneers, looks, condescending tones. So all these sort of sneaky, subtle ways of becoming adversarial, argumentative, the divisiveness, and it is how you feel. And oftentimes people have not, this has been their first rodeo with these types of people. This type of person might be present in your life from birth. So how are you going to learn the operating manual, the how to handle, the how-tos is a skill which you can learn if you've been, exposed to this person and you've been nothing but sort of managed by them, controlled by them, manipulated by them, almost like a puppet. In other words, you have to jump when they say jump. You have to lay down when they say lay down. You have to hide when they say hide. So you lose touch with that internal navigation system. You lose touch with those controls. It's like having a big, heavy equipment. If you've ever seen the guys on the side of the road, they're using levers. They've got, reverse, scoop. They know the operating system. How are you to have your own operating system when there's sort of a divisiveness? There's a panel. There is a third party, which is interrupting that flow and that connection. Oftentimes, for the very purpose of taking you down. They are very competitive, even as a family member. It would seem very ultra counterintuitive, meaning against your intuition. Why would a family member want to be competitive with their own child? It doesn't seem right. It doesn't compute as intuitive or make intuitive emotional sense. Why would a parent compete with their child and put down their child so that they can get ahead? Why would you have a child if not to raise them? What is so it goes all back into, for a lot of people, this might be your first rodeo. You might have not encountered, or you might have only known this from the get-go, from the start, and you're just now picking your head up from the horizon and you're going, this ain't working out for me. This ain't fun. I am sick and tired of this. This is not fair. This is wrong. I'm being raked over the coals and I can't stop being raked over. So it gets you into a very uncomfortable, unpleasant situation, which you need to learn, become educated and informed for how to identify and process and manage. So the red flags oftentimes for how you feel is, like this person said, is to they had a therapist who then said, one of the key red flags about this person is a key indicator of a narcissist is they'll ask you, what do you think about me? What do you think about me? And how many of you then, do you see then how you had to become into a servitude nature with these people? You had to always feed back. You had to always supply them. You have to provide. You have to be, you have to relate to them in this manner. So you don't identify it while you're in the midst of it because it seems normal. It just seems like a normal ask. But as time goes on, the colors begin to show through. You can't help but recognize the pain in your body, the pain in your heart, the pain in your finances, the pain in your relationships, your profession, how you feel. I mean, it becomes, the pain becomes great enough where you don't want to ignore it anymore, but you have to understand and sort of thread it out and understand the roots and the foundation of this. So, someone who is narcissistic is, namely, I think that was a great viewer comment, is that the therapist said, a good indicator is, the narcissist is going to ask you, what do you think about me? So in other words, they're worried about their persona management. They're worried if they're pulling one over on you. They're worried, do they have to work you over a little bit more? Do they have to break you down a little bit more? Do they have to be harsher? Do you see how they're always in the driver pit, the cockpit, and they're slowly trying to dismantle yours, unscrew a couple screws, rewire a couple wires, make it so that you can't go as fast, make it so that you can't steer the machine, make it so that you can't have visibility. This is what they do. It's good old-fashioned competition. Take your competitor out under the knees. Hit them where it hurts. Hit them in the gut so that they fall over and they can't, win the battle. It becomes a game. So if this is kind of your first go around, then you might need to sort of get into the learning mode. You need to become informed and educated of who these people are, how they make you feel, the things that they say, their manipulation tactics and tools, so you can see them come walking, you can see them coming. You can hear them coming. You know what they do and say by what they do and say. And you go, okay, I see it now, I get it. So, The narcissist who wants to, what do you think about me? Once again, it's a pivot. It's, they're at the center and everyone else, they're clamoring for attention, clamoring for feedback. And then it becomes, you become minimized, dismissed, unimportant. You almost feel invisible. You feel unheard, unseen. And so what ends up happening then is, this person, then begins to quiet down or feel invisible and then thinks that that is something wrong with them. They then begin to think that it's a permanent characteristic of them. And see, that's what the narcissist does. If they can take you out of the race, then they have just upped their race. They've just moved a position up. If they can take you out of the picture, they've just gotten themselves the number one slot. So the red flag, I think, and also how this person makes you feel, like the viewer so aptly stated, which we've discussed here on the channel before, is you feel almost like all of a sudden when they're in the room, you hear nothing but static. So that's like a radio term. If you were to turn in a dial and tune in the station 93.9, 92.4, whatever it is, you can hear the station. If you're not tuned in, you don't hear the station. All you hear is static. It's unintelligible. There's no signal. There's no sign. There's no clear communication. All of a sudden, then you tune it in, and then you can hear the music again. It's like you can hear that there's like a static around them. Often, even times, you can feel a static electricity. You can feel a tension. You can feel sort of a prickliness. If you have high degree of empathy, there's this hot, just, realize that there is energy that's coming off of people. There's an energetic field that extends 8 to 9 feet out. In a large center of it is the heart space. The heart has a lot of energy, a ton of energy coming out of it. So that's why, you can feel good around people. You can feel that this is a person of integrity. I can trust you. Or likewise, when you're walking and then you see, someone across the street, you don't even know them, but you just get this feeling that there's something not right with this person and you get a little afraid. You're tuning into that dial. You're tuning into your gut instinct. The subconscious mind knows where it's going about 8 to 9 seconds. Studies have shown, that the subconscious mind is a step or two ahead of you. It knows where it's going before the conscious, it's very close, but, the subconscious is sort of the driver. And this connection between knowing your truth and knowing when you're being violated is at that gut level. You have to learn and identify. When you're around narcissist people, they're not going to allow you that presence. You're not going to feel that you have the ability to be present. When you are with the relationship long enough, you'll understand that you will feel edged out. You'll feel overshadowed. Even if this person is 2 feet tall, you'll feel a shadow just sort of coming out of them, that they're trying to darken or dim your light. You will feel this way. You will feel threatened, and oftentimes this is known as being triggered. And maybe this person could resemble the person who was an original trigger for you or before, or this person might be the immediate source. So when you kind of back up and reflect about how you feel when they're around, are you tense? Are you afraid? Do you feel intimidated? Do you feel that you need to block a punch, figuratively or literally? Do you feel that you are receiving a lot of looks? I mean, these things. And the problem is that if you are in a relationship with these people who you're going to see or know on an ongoing basis, then you cannot relate to them the way that you want to relate. You cannot have a true empathetic feeling, safe relationship with these people. It's just, even though you might want to, even though the situation might require it, you might think it requires it, unfortunately, you have to do an internal reset. You have to realize sometimes you're dealing with people who don't have your I am at heart. They don't see you for who you are. They don't want to give you credit where credit is due. They don't want to hear what you're saying. They don't want to see what you're saying. They don't want to see what you're trying to show them. You can't you can lead them to water, but they can't drink. You can just try to accommodate and dance around them, but eventually you're going to feel a certain amount of pain or disrespect. That's known as disrespect. You have a conflict of personalities now, because you're not an energetic match to someone taking an advantage of you. This is actually a good sign. If you were an energetic match to an abuser, then you would feel okay being walked over, waffled over, disregarded, mistreated, treated as someone who's less than, smaller, unintelligent, stupid, doesn't have a voice, isn't a person of worth. Do you see? You cannot buy into their lies that they are projecting or putting on you like a cage, like a blanket, like a label. Do you see? They're not allowing you to be who you are. In other words, if you're a sunflower and they're trying to make you into a birch tree, or if you are a strong maple and they're trying to make you into a pussy willow, you'll know it. They're trying to make you into something that you are not. Hey, guess what? Divine seeds are planted within you. You are who you are. I mean, for some people, this is a flash news. This is a news report, and you have to embrace that. And the self-respect means that you have boundaries and standards. And your boundaries and standards should entail that it doesn't mean you giving away all of your attention, goodness, love, concern, affection, money, time, a lending ear, a lending heart, a lending shoulder. Why? You don't need to give it all away to the static. In other words, you are ultimately giving yourself away, even if you're not giving, even if you're just giving you're allowing yourself to fall into the sinkhole that they are creating for you to walk into. Do you see? So, it becomes a real important thing for you to acknowledge and validate, because not only, are you not getting the positive for them, but they are taking in addition. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So you have to really begin to tune in, embrace and recognize your own feeling modality, your own instinct. Do a body scan, when you're around them. How do you feel? Here comes trouble. Here comes a bully. I mean, if these are your words, you need to sort of get them out of your system and develop an internal dialogue and identify them. This is a bully. I'm not making this up. This is someone who's pushy. I'm not making this up. This is someone who is narcissistic. This is someone who is psychopathic. This is someone who is not in my best interest. I'm not making this up. This is truth and reality. So if you've been sort of walked over, you've had that predatory, condescending look, like, just they're trying to control you and manipulate. Just because they do it does not mean you have to be a victim. Just because they engage in that behavior for you doesn't mean you have to take it, ingest it, take it to heart, change your I am to be stupid, or whatever it is that they're trying to project on you. Realize if you feel that you cannot shine around this person, this is a problem. If you cannot be yourself around this person, this is a problem. And if the relationship has gotten to the point where there's a lot of, it's gotten just ugly, messy, chaotic, it's not bringing out the best of you, then it's time to refrain. If it's gotten to the point where there's words, yelling, throwing things, fights, slamming doors, hanging up, just, immature behavior. We're talking about adults where, people are doing the blame game. They're not taking responsibility. They're, taking it out in the wrong places. They're kicking the dog, kicking the child, whatever it is, you don't have to play dumb or be dumb about this. If you are feeling this static, then it's time to acknowledge that you are feeling this for a reason. You're feeling that there's a communication issue because there is one. And so when you're dealing with someone narcissistic, number one for communication means that you don't have to become a counterforce to their force. You don't have to engage like David Hawkins, the work of David Hawkins. It's so important to own your integrity and not see yourself as someone who is a different breed, a different species than someone who is a success or someone who has self-respect or can respect you. A lot of people, if they have engaged with a narcissist, been the recipient of narcissistic abuse, psychopathic abuse, they feel that maybe they've become codependent, been laden with low self-esteem. They haven't had a lot of positive experiences in their life yet, and they need to take their journey on a new leg. They need to take their journey on a new arm. They need to take their journey on a new path. You got to see, you got to see you got to see the landscape. You got to see the view from somewhere else, because it's getting ugly. It's getting small. It's getting isolated. It's getting uncomfortable. We're suffocating over here. Emotional asphyxiation is basically what happens. So you do not have to give in to that. It's okay to refrain, and just be the one to put an end, and don't tolerate the narcissistic abuse. Don't sit there and take it. Develop the boundaries and standards. If someone is makes you feel that maybe in the beginning, of the relationship, and then it proliferated and got worse, which means maybe those terms and that didactic, meaning that interaction was that way in the beginning and it's gotten worse. In other words, in the beginning, they had the sob story. They needed you to cook them dinner. I've been through this. Maybe you had become a good support, or you just enjoyed them, and then you kind of fell for their superiority complex, and you felt that they were your best of best, but you didn't realize that part of the relationship with a narcissist is when you get devalued and discarded. Devalue and discarded. It is a pattern. It is a consistent, ongoing pattern in that direction. Maybe you don't want to walk that leg of the journey being identified as such. No, thank you. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I would not recommend it for others unless you need to go there. Take a tip, follow the map and go someplace else. So realize that, the tone of these relationships, people will be manipulative. The bully is to get something that they want. They will overwhelm you emotionally. They'll be very taxing on you emotionally. You'll be, they'll say things out of context to make you feel bad. They'll talk about you behind your back. They'll create triangulation. They'll create the smear campaign where if they can get a number of people, then it's all about the numbers for them. They've got 2, 3, 5, 7, 20. Well, look who gets outnumbered. These are just a number of the manipulation tactics and red flag of how a narcissist will make you feel. And you'll begin to feel that you have bought into their lie, their illusion. So they will continue to treat you that way so that you become, you default, you fall down, you weaken, you feel bad, you succumb, and so the answer is to stick with it and not give in and not succumb and not fight, not become argumentative, not become a counterforce to their force. So if you are engaging with them on the level of the narcissist, basically you end up saying, I agree to play this game. How many times do you want to play the game? It's important because as you play the game, you'll either get very good at losing, or you'll say, you know what, I really want to get good at understanding and, coming out with self-esteem and self-respect in this one. And I want to be able to make, a good embrace of truth on this one. And be willing to have the audacity to say, even though I had bought into this person, even though I let my guard down, even though I had become vulnerable, or even though I began to trust this person, I now see that I know otherwise. And so it is, and I will be at peace with that decision. So you have to kind of do a redial and own it, and then come to peace with your decision. Come to harmony with your decision. If you have made a decision based on what you have seen, known, felt, and experienced, and you are able to connect the dots enough, maybe you need 10 dots, maybe you need 3 dots, maybe you need 1,000 dots. Maybe it has to become all that for you. Until you can make enough of a picture, enough of a gestalt, like gestalt psychology. In other words, once you can kind of fill in the big picture, once you make a couple dots and you can see it for what it is, then you can say, I see this, and this is something that I know. And you have to be able to embrace that knowledge. I know what I know. If you feel that you need enough more trials and tribulation, you want to go through one more, enter into the boxing ring. You want to hear one more, what do you think about me? You want to hear one more about them. Do you see how many more times do you want to be on the go around with them until you are able to connect enough of the dots and say, I don't want to either get on that roller coaster, I don't want to get on that merry-go-round, I don't want to get on that train of lies, I don't want to get on that train of fear. Oftentimes it's an energetic vibe. It's literally an energy, because thoughts are things. So the thoughts that they're thinking of, trying to get a leg up. I mean, these are statements for the experience. They're trying to get one up on you, get a leg up, dim your light, do things so that they get more. There's the entitlement issue, edging you out. Even though you're right there in line, they're like, oh, look over there, and then you look over there, and then they take it from under your nose. I mean, these are some of the immature things that you see from narcissists. Everything is an extension of them, and everything is theirs for the taking, including perspectives, including truth that other people have. They will try to diminish it. They'll try to minimize it. They'll try to pervert it and distort it. You're a good family person, they'll make you into a bad family person. You're a person of love, they'll try to make you into a person of hate. You're a person of fairness and no judgment, and they'll try to make you into a person who's judgmental and unfair. They'll try to, distort your I am. And a lot of people, if they've been around them for a long period of time, they basically get schooled in their I am from this person as like a mirror. And so the mirror is reflecting back something erroneous about you. Once again, I liken it to if you've ever gone to a funny house, like, one of those restaurants, or that has the wavy mirror, the House of Mirrors or whatever it was called. Remember, like if you were as a child, you went to like a carnival, and one would make you really tall, one would make you really big. It's kind of like they're reflecting back a distorted mirror image of you. And you're like, wow, I really am fat, horrible, in other words, and then you walk over here and then you're not the same. So when you're around a narcissist, that feeling that you get back will be reflected very much like static, like disrespect, like all it is about them and what you think about them. And you'll find that you're not even able to sort of enter in emotionally, that you feel emotionally asphyxiated. Your I am is suffocated. So if this is the case, just because, know what you know and then laugh it off. You have to get to a degree of acceptance, peace with how it is, and then harmony, which meaning basically, you want to get back to, you want to get to, your truth and allow it to just be, but not become a counterforce to it. So you have to understand the tools of boundaries. In other words, this is my energy, that's your energy. Standards. This is what, I need in a person, and this is what I don't need. So if you're dealing with me with lack of integrity, if you're trying to spoof me, if you're trying to disrespect me, then that is intolerable, and I'm, going to keep the relationship to a standard. I'm not going to tolerate when it falls below. I mean, this is just, this has to be developed, and this has to be enforced. This has to be executed. This has to be understood and done with a sense of peace. So eventually in the healing journey, you need to come to a place where you feel peace, acceptance, absence of fear, where you're not feeling fearful when this person becomes around. You have to come and process it on your own and digest it, and then know how to deal. In other words, they're just sort of in a little Tupperware, over there. They're just sort of put them into a little box. Just put them outside of you, but in a place where it can't come out and contaminate you. detoxify you because you know what it is, and then you know not to interact, not to engage, not to take what they say to heart, and to not feel fear in their presence. Number one, you have to feel your truth in their presence and know what it is that you know, and then don't give in, don't put fuel to the fire, don't fan their narcissism. Understand what it is and step away and claim your I am. Declare it and laugh, laugh with a hearty laugh of joy and say, at least I have ownership of myself, my boundaries, and my standards. And my standards to come in and engage, there needs to be a degree of respect, and I can connect the dots. And there needs to be a degree of peace. There needs to, the violation has to stop. If not, then you're just going to enforce it and do what you need to do to keep that at bay. Keep it from sailing into your harbor. Keep it from coming at your doorstep. You don't need to live like that. You need to unlearn the negative lessons about who you are, own who you are, and your self-respect, and live that, be that, and become that even more in depth and even with more strength. And the universe will rise to meet you and verify and validate that for you. So don't give in. To pay attention to your gut. Know what you know. Accept what you accept, and then embrace it. And then, watch the videos. We talk about tools for managing either going no contact and then processing sort of the trauma that you have been through. But own it with grace, own it with strength, and begin to feel a sense of real peace and a lessening of the fear that they have caused you. Even becoming a little bit more neutral will be a great action step for you. So keep on the path. You can do this. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Conduct your life with heart and integrity. And remember that the more that you surround yourself with people of heart and, and that validation, it'll strengthen your I am. So begin to realize that your relationship dynamics will change. Stay the course. You've got this.